Yes, ladies and gentlemen, thank you once again for joining us here on INC Live and to the UFC 320 preview show. My name is Karl Bainbridge and I am joined by the man on the right hand side of my screen. And with it being the Ryder Cup this weekend, I am joined by the Jack Nicholas to my Nick Faldo. It's Rob Nakamura. Rob, thank you very much for joining us.
My man, it's been a little bit since I got to see you since last time. I enjoy it very much. Thank you for having me.
And thank you very much for letting us use your interview with our karate combat champion.
Oh, my man, my pleasure. And I hope as many people can enjoy that and get to learn Arturo more deeply and know what kind of character he has. He's a great dude. I spend a good amount of time with that guy, and you can probably see why from the video.
Yeah, certainly so, and it was a real pleasure to obviously have you contributing to the channel. And obviously Joe is AWOL this weekend. He's a little bit under the weather, and he told us yesterday that he wasn't going to have the opportunity to record, so the call went out to yourself, and hopefully I didn't scare you too much with our first two recordings, hence you're back with us.
Nah, man, I loved it. That's why I was back for the second time. And just like any good movie series, I'm here for the trilogy. I hope we can Fast and Furious this and we end up 10 episodes deeper further. But blessings to him, speedy recovery and all that. And man, thank you for having me once again.
I'm glad you mentioned the other Fast and the Furious films, because I think the third one was Tokyo Drift, which is god-awful.
It is, but I actually have some friends that were part of the stunt team. So, like, my friends got paid for that movie, so hey, it wasn't that bad, right?
Hopefully UFC 320 won't be as awful, and this is the card which we are here to talk about. So we're going to set the scene for a lot of people, because I kind of get the feeling, Rob, that obviously the MMA world always moves and it goes super quickly. The moment we finish one pay-per-view, we're instantly thinking about the next one. I kind of get the feeling though that UFC 320 has kind of gone a little bit under the radar. Obviously, we've had the talk recently about the White House card which is being planned, and it almost feels as if all of the cards which are coming up, say a month from now, 2 months, 3 months, are all being swept under the rug because everyone's talking about next July. Do you kind of get that feeling?
I do, but I believe the modern MMA fan base, specifically UFC fan base, not MMA fan base, is always talking about some ridiculous future date that's asterisk subject to change right on the promotion, versus the thing that's happening about 5-6 days, 1-2 days away, that's guaranteed to be happening, that will actually bring you entertainment. And it's that whole concept frustrates me. So I agree with you that there's a ridiculous amount of attention on that. Now I get it. It's massive. It's something we haven't done in America as far as holding events on the White House lawn. I don't have the exact numbers, but like 150 something years ago, I think was the last time we did something cool over there. So I get that there's a lot of people who are woefully uneducated in politics, so they just like to throw their 2 cents in, and they feel attached to politics, even though they do nothing with government, and then conversely want to jump in on the White House discussion. But man, yeah, you're right. I mean, there's so much good stuff, so much good fights. 320, I feel like, well, the community can only digest so much. Like, they're trying to force every weekly event in your face. So how much can you be excited for so much that you know is coming your way? I don't know. There's like a trade-off, right?
And I kind of get the feeling that we're starting to see a little bit of scrimping when it comes to. I understand with the UFC business model, you've got to prioritize the shows that make the most money. So obviously you're going to load your pay-per-views, but obviously you've been aware that this Perth card that we've had this weekend, the stadium's like half full. They are really struggling to sell tickets, and a lot of that is because you've got one big marquee match, and the rest are like unranked local fighters. It's very hard, I feel, for the local fans and I would say the wider MMA fans to get
I,
invested in these kind of B shows.
Brother, I got 3 reasons why this card was set up to suffer compared to other Perth cards. You ready? First one, time. This shit starts at 5 a.m. Australia. 5 a.m. in Australia. Who the hell is waking up at? You'd have to wake up at 4 o'clock minimum to just get up, get ready, and get to the arena. Normal standards, right? Like, who's waking up at that time to go watch MMA? dumb. Second, um, they stacked it with Joe Nobodies, 13 DWS fighters and somewhat irrelevant Australian okay, I'm not dogging on their scene. I love a lot of their fighters, just disclaimer. But how well are they known? Like you said, they're for the region, but the region doesn't even know them because they haven't been on the UFC screen that much. So figure that one out. The other one, part 3, is they are going against their own local biggest day of the sport calendar for them. In the US, nothing goes head to head with the Super Bowl because it's dumb. It dominates everything on that day. I'm sure, I don't know what, maybe the Champions League or something for you guys. Sorry, I don't know. Maybe the EPL final or something.
Probably their pickup final.
Okay, so what is something that just dominates the day? Like nobody even tries to put stuff on that date. Well, the Australians, that's what they're having. They're having the Australian Super Bowl, and I'm comically saying that the rugby championship is happening. That's their Super Bowl, bro. To go, all of those 3 strikes are out. Everybody knows that, and that's the 3 strikes.
And I know as well, I think Perth is on the west coast of Australia, when a lot of the other major cities are over on the east coast. So Perth is pretty much all on its own when it comes to Australian tourism.
That's a whole nother, that's why they be paying the UFC to go there. They pay the UFC to go there, and the UFC shags them, using that expression, to
Very British one.
appreciate it. I'm trying. And so, and to pay them to have them run a show at 5 a.m. local time, that's rough stuff. I don't know how true this is because I'm not buying tickets in Australia, but I heard the other events were initially priced better. This one was priced higher. That could have took some steam on it. I'm pretty sure they've adjusted some of the prices as to date right now, moments away from this fight. So I don't know, man. When you take the big 3 reasons I just said, then sprinkle in cash because cash rules everything around me. Boom, that's it.
Hopefully, though, USC 320 will hopefully, you know, what would it be? The sugar that helps the medicine go around. And based on what you look at in terms of the main card, which obviously you can see on our screen right now here. So for anybody who is joining the show or has done for a while, we are using a slightly different format for this one. Instead of us going down the entirety of the main card fight by fight, what we're going to do is going to do an overall look at the main card, pick out some fights which personally take our interest, and then we'll do the deep dive on the core main and the main event itself. So, based on what you see in front of you, Rob, what would you say are the big fights that people should be looking for? Because for all the criticism that we do give the UFC and the way we've pretty much vilified that perf card, this main card, and I would argue some of the prelims as well, they do have the potential to deliver come 320.
I want to agree with you fully that this card is built the way the fans have expected cards to be built, loaded, lots of names, lots of recognizable faces and talent that you go, ooh, that's what's up. But I can't go any further without mentioning, on the prelims, fellow Hawaiian Punahele Soriano, that's the fight. All right. Don't miss the early prelims because Hawaiian's on the card. But now to the point. Main card action, the whole card I think has lots of, once again, talent that everybody recognizes or at least should recognize. And honestly, like, if you're not happy with this main card, then you don't like the UFC and you don't like fighting, and go fishing or something.
They definitely seem to have gone very striker heavy, big power punches. You look at obviously people like Yuri and Khalil. I think is the one that a lot of people are highlighting and saying that one could potentially be a belter. But Josh Emmett always had a reputation for cracking. Bryce Mitchell knows that all too well. And then you've got people like Gautier, Shabazian, Joe Pfeiffer. So a lot of big hitters.
Yeah, absolutely, dude. You nailed it. And lots of good storylines, like not the dramatic WWE storylines, like good actual organic storylines within these fights as well.
Yeah. Are there any fights in particular that stand out for you?
Main card, man, you're gonna put me on a spot because every time I say one, I'm gonna want to add another. But you just kind of clicked on it. Yuri versus Khalil, like that could headline a card in my own opinion. Like that fight is genuine hot sauce. I don't see a way in hell that that fight is boring to any degree. So yes, that fight is maybe my marquee as far as the main card goes.
My biggest curiosity when it comes to this fight is as good as Khalil has been over this most recent run of form, I kind of still feel there's a lot of unknowns regarding how good he actually is. And I mean no disrespect to Khalil, and I don't want any of his fans to think that I'm having a go at him. But I kind of get the feeling that if you do look at his run, there's a few asterisks next to those fights because, yes, he beat Anthony Smith, but in my opinion, Smith had one foot out the door at that point. Yes, he had that really good showing against Pereira, but I think Pereira was compromised going into that fight. And personally, and a little spoiler alert when we get to the main event, I kind of get the feeling that Pereira is starting to call out of his prime. And yes, he beat Jamal Hill, but is Jamal Hill the same fighter since he had that knee injury? So I think the fight against Yuri is going to show us how legit Roundtree is.
You nailed it. I mean, it's hard. There is those other elements you can argue against Khalil or whatever, but I think a lot of people are still holding on to how he wasn't even supposed to really be fighting Alex in the first place for that fight and how much heart he showed. But toughness doesn't win fights, and he has all the toughness in the world for sure. It's you I think you nailed it when you said this is the fight we're gonna know where is Khalil. Like in this mix of top talent in this division, where is Khalil truly? And this is where we're gonna know for sure.
If there is one fighter on the main card who I think is raising a few eyebrows, sort of like people saying, why is he here? I think the argument has to be Joe Pfeiffer because I kind of one like anybody who follows me on social media, follows me on the channel, I've always been a bit wary of fighters who seem to get the Dana White rub. You look at people like Bo Nickal's the one that I think a lot of people have really sort of gravitated to and said, oh, he's a Dana White pet, he keeps getting all the favourable treatment, that kind of jazz. I think you can make an argument for Joe Pfeiffer. Like, yes, he hits hard. Yes, he has a lot of first round knockouts. But that's kind of all he's got to his game, I feel. And the times I've seen Joe Pfeiffer, if he doesn't get you out in the first round, his cardio's shot. So I think giving him another pay-per-view main card placement, it's not the decision I would make personally, but then again, I'm not the guy running the show.
To a couple of things to that, like people, you've all worked jobs. You know how workplace politics works. Like the love and favoritism doesn't always go to the most talented or hardest working individual. Sometimes it does, rarely. But like that's just how it goes. And like, would you want to be the person who's forgotten by the organization on a 6-7 fight win streak and still on the undercard, or do you want to instantly get put in the video game, get royalties, be on the sweet spot? Like, of course, that's what you'd want. Like, don't hate on that. Like, that's just because somebody else decided. That's not on him. Now, on the flip side of that, I think this is exactly where they need to, and just to go against you respectfully, I think this is exactly where you get to put him because of that treatment, because his name is recognizable. And for what? Because he's a killer? No, because the privilege, and we all know his name. So if you're going to extract any value from him and or simultaneously both, find out what is his value, you put him against, Abus, and you're going to find out. And so we either get to see, is Joe Pfeiffer a product to continue investing in further from a business standpoint, or do we, move on from it? Because you only can lay into the privilege for so long before it has to start returning you value. And I think this is a great spot to figure that out.
I think maybe it's just me being like a wrestling fan, because I kind of grew up with the idea that the fans kind of choose who they want to get over, and then the company reads the room and leans into it. I kind of feel with Pfeiffer, it's a bit of a Roman Reigns situation where the company's decided, no, this is the guy, and you are going to like him, even if you like taking a like it, god damn it.
Brother, like the WWE used to be, like the UFC used to be connected to merit and or fan response. That is not the way the game it works now. Ever since TKO took over the show, we can clearly see the fingerprints tell a different story. And this, I agree with you in my heart, but that's just not the way it is now.
Bring back Beyond Rebney. He knew about Merab. Some of the other fights that I'm interested in when it comes to the prelims and the Fight Pass prelims. Um, does anyone find it quite interesting that we have two quite prominent names in Bellator, which are featured on the Fight Pass portion of the card? Because we've got Patchy Mix, who's making his second UFC appearance, unfortunately had a very poor performance against Mario Bautista on his debut. And also we've got Austin Vanderford, who fought Musasi for the middleweight title back in Bellator. Is this just coincidence that they seem to be so low down on the card, or is this the UFC kind of saying, well, this is Bellator's level compared to the UFC's, you're only worth being the second or third fight on the card?
I don't really think that part, because they've already given some of the gentlemen of the higher standard to be showcased in better spots. They don't just relegate you down to the bottom just because you're in Bellator. So I don't really think that's the case. I think Patchy Mix, best bantamweight in the world. You guys want to have fun, go search X, go put that in the search, and you're gonna find a bunch of idiots who said that. Because he's not, and his performance was so shit that this is a perfect place to put him, because people are going to see him for free. You paid a bunch of money for him. They're going to see him for free. If he shits the bed, good. People are going to talk shit and make fun of it. If he does good, okay, great. Now you're on for free and everybody got to see it. In the case of Mr. Van Zant, Austin Vanderford, actually, real life, I don't think he should get the same treatment as Bellator world champions or former world champions. Like, those guys get a better spot. He was a title contender, right? Like, is okay. Like, I respect it, and I more respect him because he won. So if they're gonna put him there for maybe just for once again for eyes to build him, because how many, like, let's be honest, how many people besides us hardcores know he's Mr. Van Zandt? How many of us, how many of the UFC casuals who will be tuning into this pay-per-view card because it's a big card, as they say, know him? This is the time to grow him. He seems to actually have skills. He seems to actually be able to progress and have some tread on the tire. He's not past his prime or past his mark like a lot of the other acquisitions. So I think it's fair.
Fair enough. Is there anything else, any other fighter, any other fight that stands out before we move on to talking about our core men?
My man, I wish I could just throw something up there, but I will say I'm always interested in Edmund Shabazian, talking about someone who had the Dana White privilege and lost it along the way. He seems to maybe have progressed and changed some things in the game. I'm really interested to see is what's up with this guy. You know, like, he was oversold, then everybody jumped off of him, and now he's possibly getting it together. I think that's a worthwhile paying attention to.
I think we're kind of seeing the ceiling when it comes to Edmund. I think that he was the victim of too much hype. Obviously, he had like the Ronda connection, and there was that win over Brad Tavares on the MSG card. And I think a lot of people maybe read a bit too much into him based on that. But I think we're kind of seeing that level where he really should have been. I think if he was to beat Muniz, I think I wouldn't call it like a feather in the cap, but it's another sort of name. It's all similar to sort of like the Tavares mold, where you think maybe there is something there.
Yeah, and I agree with you on that point. I got two other little trickles. I already said the name, but I say it again. Punahele Soriano. Folks, if you don't know how few native Hawaiians there are on the planet, and then you figured that out, and then you realize how many of us have fought on world stages for your entertainment, you'd go, holy shit, thank you. So there you go. That's why I'm going to plug my boy again one more time. But really, my real love on the early, since I gave one for the top, one for the middle, one for the bottom, shout out to Veronica Hardy, man. Like, queen of the curtain opener, like the curtain jerker, queen of the curtain jerker. Like, I hope good stuff for her, man. I hope she stays undeniable. I love when fighters become undeniable. Like, put me on the opening show. I don't care. I'm going to win my fight. I'm going to get my money. And then I get to watch the whole rest of the card. Easy peasy. So shout out to her. I wish good luck to her.
And her game has improved a lot since she hooked up with Dan. I think Dan has turned her into, I wouldn't say a good fighter, but a solid UFC worthy fighter.
In the current climate of women's fighting, yes, she's very applicable to the game and she's ascending. That's all we can ask for fighters is to continue growing, ascending, and she is. So let's go.
Speaking of the women's game, are you invested at all in Macy versus Yana?
No. And it's not Macy's fault. Actually, I'm pro Macy. I just think Yana is a product of yesterday's generation. She's her best fighting days have come and gone, much like her husband's. Sorry if that hurt anybody's feelings.
So it is time for us to talk about our core main event of the evening, and for the third time this year, which makes a welcome change given how inactive most champions are, the bantamweight title is going to be on the line as Merab Dvalishvili defends his belt up against the number 4 seed Cory Sandhagen. You can get Merab as a minus 400 favourite. Sandhagen comes in at plus 275. And as I kind of hinted there with my sort of opening monologue, we are seeing a different kind of era when it comes to UFC champions. It's very much about sort of maybe one fight a year, trying to prioritize the sort of, how should I put this, sort of like the high reward fight rather than just accumulating defenses. I bring this up because I think the Murab, along with I'd say Pantoja is another one, remind me of sort of like old school champions. It's not so much about trying to go for a second belt or trying to get the big money fights. It's just who's the next contender? I'm going to fight them and I'm going to try and beat them and just building win after win after win. And I have to say, I know that Merab has some people who dislike his style. I think he is just such a welcome positive change compared to the norm of champions these days.
Yeah, absolutely. The double belt situation got played out mainly because nobody was defending the original belt. So then you're not really a double champ in most cases. I agree with you fully there. If you look at the history, the most well respected fighters are the ones who defended their belt multiple times and sometimes then stepped up to the next weight class. Playing hot potato because you're ducking Ilya Tapuria. Yeah, that's right. Ilya Tapuria, you're a ducking little frog. Um, I had to get that out. Is just the way the game is now because people are chasing highlights and Instagram clicks and media attention versus subject. Some are, and then refreshingly, there's still people on the map like Pantoja, like Marab, doing the real thing, being real champions, and proving why the sport is still great.
Yes. And I kind of feel as well that I think Merab was somebody who, because of his style, there was a lot of naysayers, and he had to jump through a lot of hoops and fight a lot of very different stylistic fighters to get his opportunity. But I kind of get the feeling now that I think a combination of him being a big personality away from the cage, I think that's something that has really been, he's really amplified over the past 2 or 3 years. But also as well, I feel the Umar win in particular, it made a lot of people sit up and give him respect that he maybe didn't have when he was fighting O'Malley at the Sphere.
Oh, that fight valid. If anybody had doubts, which you shouldn't really have had, honestly, because he already proved himself well before that. If there were any naysayers or any doubters, that fight just silenced the hell out of everybody and put a solid stamp on his name for what he is and what he does. Um, this this guy has earned it, and I'm happy for it. I'm proud of it. And I'm so glad he's an American citizen because we're starting to run short on champions. So, woo, taking one on the technicality.
Well, he's Georgian, so Europe's going to claim him as our own.
Well, I mean, you guys can, but you'll be wrong, and it's fine. It's
Well, I
where
mean,
you pay your taxes. Where you pay your taxes is what you are, and
well, it,
he's
well, I
all
mean, his
out of it.
flag's the George Cross, so
I mean, he can fly whatever flag he wants. There's Americans that fly I mean, Hawaiians come in with our flag. Doesn't mean anything. Where your taxes go to is your land, and welcome, Marab. We love you.
well,
But
it
something you said, sorry to cut you in, but something you said about the way he's getting his popularity on. I love the way he did it. he validated himself in fighting first,
Hmm.
then showed the celebrity aspect. Too many guys trying to be a celebrity and a pro athlete at the same damn time. Get in the right order.
I totally agree. I totally agree. So we can consider this then, based on your logic, an America versus America fight, because he's going to be taking on Cory Sandhagen. And I'm in two minds in regards to how I feel about Cory being in this position, because I love Cory Sandhagen. I think for a long time he has been one of the most entertaining and exciting bantamweight fighters for a good few years. And he's always been in or around the top five. There's an element of Michael Bisping about him, though, in that he's always the guy that's in contention. But when it comes to the big one, when it comes to the title eliminators, there's always someone out there that's just a little bit better than him. So he had the fight with Umar. He unfortunately lost that one, and then he got submitted by Aljamain Sterling. Is Sandhagen in this position because he's legitimately earned it, or is he here because Merab's already beaten everyone else, and he's kind of got the shot by default?
I I think there's room for both arguments. By the way, that Bisbing comparison is cold, brother. Good one. I see where you're going. And like him, Bisbing needed proper timing, right? Everybody says, timing is everything. Sometimes, sometimes you're the third best fighter in the world, and the way the timing works out, you get to be the best for a little bit of period of time until the cards shuffle again. So I think Corey has definitely earned to be considered a title contender once again. Merab beating the other relevant people is not a bad thing. Like it's somebody's got to fight somebody. So I think those are just not a negative on either side. It's just two facts that come together to make this awesome moment.
So we're going to deep dive Merab Dvalishvili in a bit more detail here. So we've got a 20-4 record. This is going to be his third fight in 2025. His most recent one came in June when he submitted Sean O'Malley. It was actually the second win he has over O'Malley, along with wins over Umar, Henry Cejudo, Piotr Jan, Jose Aldo, Marlon Moraes, John Dodson, and back pre-UFC, Rafian Stotts as well, who ended up being a big name in Bellator. So this is a guy who has a really impressive portfolio. And I know we kind of make these arguments, and I don't want to fall into the kind of casual trap of sort of jumping to sort of amazing conclusions immediately. But bearing in mind a bantamweight, you've got Dominic Cruz, who had a lot of talent, but unfortunately couldn't stay fit, and TJ Dillashaw, who has that asterisk next to his name because of the steroid test. Does Merab maybe have a claim that he is in the top three best bantamweights ever? Could he be number one?
Uh I would wait a little bit more.
Mm.
Like I would wait a little bit more just because of the way one of those fights he had to do the rematch with Sean. I don't think Sean should have even gotten the immediate rematch, to be honest. So I would. Here's the thing. I'll jump right into that casual trap, if you will, but it's really just about proving it a little bit more. Like there's so many times where we've had guys that we think is gonna be this or that, and then they lose the title. And it's like, oh, well, that whole discussion goes right out the window. Not discredit them as a good champion, because he's clearly already that. To put him in the top three ever, I mean, if you want to remove Dillashaw completely from the discussion, I'm all for it. Then let him have that spot, because I don't think that guy deserves to be mentioned at all in any category ever. But yeah, I think he's on the verge. My answer, I think he's on the verge.
And I think there's a lot of fans as well. They put a lot of weight into title defenses. And unfortunately, because of the way the UFC operated, Merab didn't get the belt until later in this sort of like winning streak. Like maybe if he got the belt, say, when he beat Piotr Jan, for example, and then he had 4 or 5 defenses under his belt rather than the two he has right now.
That's it. That's the red jewels, man. The red jewels in the belt, to me, just like many others, means a lot. Now, on the other hand, should he, could he, this and that? These are all things that we just have to live with, because the rankings are broke and the UFC values things that we don't quite as fans. So it is what it is. But I think he's making the best of what he's got. He's making himself a solid champion, like you said, working his face off and butt off. And dude, if not saying he will, because Cory is one hell of a fighter, but if he can beat Cory in a similar fashion of dominance to Nurmagomedov and to O'Malley, if he could dominate the fight in that level, I think that would accelerate his claim or campaign towards any great accolades you want to give him, or any Mount Rushmore you want to put him on.
So now we'll talk about Merab from a more stylistic perspective. Obviously, we've run down the stats. When you look at Merab as a fighter, there's obviously one thing that comes to mind, which is that cardio, and more specifically, the weaponization of that cardio. Because everybody has sort of like quirks about fighters that they always love. They always think, you know what, that's a trait which I always look for and I really enjoy in a fighter. For me, it's weaponized cardio. It's just that guy who is able to just push such a heavy pace, be it a striking output, be it takedowns, that kind of thing, and just wind and just grind and wear down his opponents and just slowly seeing the will of his opponent breaking as the fight goes on. Merab, in my opinion, is one of the best examples of that. And we saw that, in my opinion, with Sean O'Malley, because I think if you looked at that first round, you could make an argument O'Malley was keeping it competitive. It was a close first round, but then slowly you saw Merab implementing his game, just taking O'Malley down, letting him get up, and then taking him back down again. And just slowly the fight from O'Malley was receding, and eventually the sub happens. And to me, like people say, oh, why do you like that, but you don't like someone like Hamza, for example? It's because I just like that idea of just workhorse and progression, just like I'm going to take you down, let you up, take you down again. That to me is more enjoyable than just 5 second shot, get the takedown, sub you, or lay and pray for 25 minutes.
I mean, I can't really make the comparison between the two there. I really can't.
It's two approaches to wrestling.
Yeah, and to the first point, the weaponized cardio, he's maybe the best example right now in the current right now time period that you have of that. I think, and jump on the comments or call me stupid because I don't know the exact science off the top of my head, but there's something about your cardio system developing and the blood supply developing for your muscles that takes extremely long period of time. So the amount of time it takes to lose weight or gain weight and look good is nothing compared to what it takes to cardio to then be able to feed that. And I think Merab staying consistent in that weight class is another attribute. I mean, he's got gifted ability, maybe perhaps blessed by God, maybe perhaps his body type, he's not the tallest guy, so that helps. But when you stay consistent, I think there's something to be looked at from a sports science point of view that lends another maybe star to that list of 5 stars that he has in that category.
I think the area of Georgia where he grew up in, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the area he grew up in, it's higher altitude as well.
That never hurts. That absolutely never hurts as far as that goes. We're not super high here in Las Vegas, only 5,000 feet, I believe. Everybody notes the 10,000 feet like Denver, but 5,000 is still 5,000 more than the place I was born and raised from in the middle of the sea. So, you know what I mean? It can all help. And obviously being from Georgia, rising up in that kind of mountainous environment, I don't see how that could have hurt at all.
So, outside of the cardio, are there any tools, any tricks that stand out for you when it comes to Merab?
I mean, let's just I'll take the immediate bait for the stuff that's been floating around the internet. Great question, dude. Is his sub game, right? Like maybe it's way better than some of us wanted to believe, the way he just got DJ. And I know it's training, cry about it, whatever. But still, like DJ's thing now is being awesome on the internet and showing his knowledge and dominating all kinds of people in sparring situations. I think that's a decent feather in his cap. If we can see that wrinkle of his game improve, that's what's up. I mean, there's a lot of elements, right? Like he's not afraid to go on with the striking, knowing that he knows how to do it. And I say this all the time when I'm in my spaces or commenting for fights. The ability to present enough striking so that it camouflages your
Hmm.
grappling attack, knowing the grappling attack is coming. It's inevitable, it's coming, but to present so much of a puzzle that now you have to take the bait and deal with it and then get screwed on the wrestling aspect is genius. And let's not discount his ability to showboat a little. He showboats in a great way, and mind effing your opponent is like another set of damage. When you're styling on somebody, you're taking something away from them all at the same time. So he's got a lot of weapons coming at you all at once.
Yes, I've noticed a lot of spinning back fists, a lot of spinning when it comes to his striking as well.
What, he's worried about you taking him down? Nope.
I mean, you can afford to be creative if you know that there's always going to be the opportunity to get back up to create these scrambles. And it's something as well that I think Cory Sandhagen does a lot. So we're going to use that opportunity to talk about him, an 18-5 record. His most recent win came against Davison Figueiredo, which during the middle of one of those scrambles, Figueiredo blew out his knee. So a little bit of an asterisk next to that win, but I do think it was a fight that he was. I think he won the first round between the two, and I think he was winning the second as well. Outside of Figgy, you've got wins over Rob Font, Cheeto Fever, Song Yadong, Frankie Edgar, which unfortunately I think maybe set about a decline in Frankie's later career. Marlon Moraes, Rafael Asuncao as well. So you've got some pretty solid names in there. So Cory Sandhagen isn't. He's no pushover, even if this fight, in my opinion, maybe is a step too far for him. I mean, Cory Sandhagen is a good fighter.
He's a he's a very good fighter. And you just mentioned it right there. He's put some great fighters out to pasture. I mean, that's also a solid earmark of what you are and what you can do. On the other side, his losses against literally the who's who. Like there's really like who he's not losing to anybody that doesn't deserve the win. The other part of that I want to say about beating Figueiredo in that manner, I just want to like for some people who are like, oh, this or that or whatever about it. Original tenets of martial arts is disable your opponent. There is, you know, barring Cobra Kai because it's not true, but no mercy. Like you disable them. Sometimes you gotta break a joint. Sometimes you have to hurt them to win the fight. It's not about just winning off of points or whatever. And his, ability to understand the position, his knowledge of what Davison didn't know at the given moment to just simply sit up and that sit up would destroy a knee. I mean, that's high level, man. That's not like by accident. So I'm Corey is a serious problem. Anybody who's just writing him off will probably be disappointed. I'm not saying he's going to win, but this is a great, legitimate title fight. These are the top warriors going head to head. Very solid.
And I think Corey does have a few weapons which I think could play to his advantage. I think that for the bantamweight division, I think he's somebody who knows how to use his reach very well. So there's a lot of front kicks in there, a lot of jabs. I think he's allowed to go quite kick heavy because he knows that I think if he was to get taken down, he has the scrambling ability to make it a bit dirty, to make it grimy, to get back to his feet. It didn't work for him when he fought Aljamain Sterling, but as we know, Aljo was one of the best at taking the back and subbing you. So I think that was a miscalculation on his part. But and I think as well, there's also a sub game from the bottom. We saw against Dillashaw, he wrecked Dillashaw's knee when he got him in that knee bar right at the end of the first round. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Corey trying to go quite jiu-jitsu heavy, especially in the first few rounds. Because in my opinion, Corey isn't going to out-cardio Merab. I don't think anybody's going to do it. But what I think he is going to do is go very aggressive very early on. So he's going to throw the big kicks. He's going to throw the flying knees. He's going to try and scramble and sub early on because I think for him, that's his best avenue to victory.
I won't disagree with you that his sub ability is definitely something we're gonna have to consider and might be a major pathway to victory. I agree with you there. One thing is his footwork is
Hmm.
ace. His footwork is ace, and for the little bit of time when you're mentioning the O'Malley fight against Merab, when Sean's footwork was on point and he was very focused on it, Merab was like looking for answers there. I'm not sure if I would want to right away get on the ground with Merab, uh, just because he is who he is, but and you don't want to be on the bottom in any situation because you're just automatically losing the round. But I could see that Cory is I will say Cory is a very intelligent fighter, and I could see him using his length, his range, his footwork, not near the same level of cardio for sure, but I think he could stay near active enough for at least 3 of the 5 rounds, um to keep that, and before I would even worry about him getting tired, so to speak, and maybe Merab closing him via footwork. And that's where we get into the dangerous parts of Cory, is that he has answers in the X factors. He has plausible weapons in the areas of the game that ain't his game. And that's just my thoughts.
I think so as well. I just think about what happened with Merab against Marlon Moraes. Because if you look through this run that Merab's been on, the guy who came closest to finishing him, closest to beating him, was Moraes. And the way he did it was a lot of power early in that first round and catching Merab when he was cold. Now, Corby isn't like a one-shot knockout artist, but as we saw when he fought Frankie Edgar, he can explode and he can catch wrestlers coming in. And I kind of get the feeling that we could see Corby trying something similar.
Dude, I'm with you. And can I just play? I'm gonna play Nostradamus for a second. You know what? One weapon Cory has, he can throw it like that, and would be devastating if timed. His flying knee.
Hmm.
He can throw flying knees from almost any angle at any stance point with no tell. And if he can read Marab, that I think we could have a oh boy moment. Once again, X Factor moment.
Because I think you're going to need that because, spoiler alert when it comes to when we make our final predictions, but I think outside of an early Sandhagen finish, I think we're kind of going to get the same Merab fight that we normally do. There might be a few scares, it might be quite competitive in the first round, but once we get into the second and we get into the third, and Merab starts implementing his game more, getting the takedowns, letting them back up, taking them down again, and just slowly breaking that will. The question then becomes, do we see Merab finishing the fight or do we see it going to a decision? Because as much as I do love Corey, I think outside of an early finish, I don't see a path to victory.
Respect to that, I'm gonna meet you and say agreed mostly, except one other X factor about Cory. Cory throws elbows when he gets taken down, when the takedown is happening, or when he's in the guard. He's really good at it. The UFC has been lazy as hell with shots to the back of the head and whatnot. I'm not calling shenanigans, but Cory sticks an elbow in the wrong place. I think there's wiggle room for some, what's the word? Some fuckery, perhaps, but that's I think you're right. I think you're right overall that a lot of the chips are on Merab's side as far as pathway to victories goes, but there are some solid landmines placed in this game that I think still could produce oh no type moments.
I think you've actually made a really good point there because if you look through this most recent run of Merab, who is the best guard player he's fought?
Uh, I would have to look at the list for me to give you the next best guy. But in this, and as far as title defense era, which I know is small, but this is third. As far as defending his belt, this is it. This is the guy.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking through here because I mean, you've got a lot of like good top control wrestlers there. You've got a lot of strikers, but you haven't got that kind of that sort of submission expert. You haven't got like a Rani Yaya or someone like that who he's fought.
Yeah, and I mean, let's be honest. The way Marab fights and likes to fight is inviting a lot of elbows. from someone who can pull it off, and Corey is the guy that could.
So let's look at the two scenarios of what could happen depending on each person wins. And we'll start off with Sandhagen because if Corey was to win that fight, that entire window of contenders opens up again. Piotr Jan gets back into contention. Umar gets another opportunity. You know the UFC are going to want Sean O'Malley to get back in the mix as well if he beats Song Yadong. Who gets that shot if Sandhagen was to win? Or do they give Merab a rematch?
I don't know. Man, that is a ace level question. If you could help me out and give me some possibilities to choose from, because off the top, one, let me say this: I'm not saying that Marab doesn't deserve a rematch or whatever. I'm not here to argue that. I'm just tired of immediate title
Yes.
rematches. I think there should be minimum one fight in between, like just minimum. The guy should have to fight some one other person. Like, hey, if he's credible and he wins the other fight, yeah, then run it back if it was good. But immediate rematches, I'm just please no more of that. So I don't know. I can't think of off the top of my head, but I can say that your suggestion about Mr. Yan, I know there's a solid group of fan base. Shout out to my boy Conrad that would love that. Would are dying for that opportunity for Piotr. So that's the good thing about the unexpected guy winning if show he should is that the cards reshuffle and we get to play fantasy matchmaker all over again with a new deck. And I wish I had some of that I could just pull up and say, oh yeah, that's probably the most likely guy. But Corey, I mean, shoot, Corey could try to avenge one of his losses along the way that he's attempted if any of those guys are near the mix. Um, I wish I knew the rankings right off the top of my head, but I don't.
And then from Merab's perspective, you could be looking at a rematch based off the other contenders around him. And it's kind of a drawback of the UFC um, kind of overlooking him for so long because when he should have been getting the title shot around sort of like the Cejudo fight time, instead they kept making him fight more and more people. So by the time he did get the belt, you haven't got that many fresh contenders. I don't see them doing the O'Malley fight again, given how one-sided the second fight was. Um, do you want to go down the Umar route again? Because that fight was quite recent. Piotr
No,
Jan, but again, that fight was quite one-sided. So you're left with not many contenders if
I
if Merab was to win.
I agree with you. It's a mess. What they Let's just say that slow roasting certain fighters like they did Marab, combined with the complete ineptitude of the ranking system, has caused this. There should be 10 guys minus the champion that is viable for the championship at any given moment. Obviously, rematches might happen because these are the best in the world, but the reality is the rankings not degrading or devaluing certain people, selected individuals when they lose, and letting them hover in top spots to then be talked about again for the title is a huge disservice, and we're seeing that plague hurt the possibilities. So then you end up in situations where people go, why is the eighth guy fighting? Well, because it's the freshest matchup and it makes the most sense. And it might not even be an original matchup. It's just the freshest, meaning the time between their two fights is the longest rematch available, you know?
I've got the topology rankings up here right now of the
Sweet.
bantamweight rankings, and if you were to take away the people that Merab's already fought, it's number five, Song Yadong, and he's going to be fighting Sean O'Malley in December. And then after that, it's Bautista, who's got that match against Umar. So you're going to kind of hope that one of those two wins their fight, or else you're going to be somewhere bad without a paddle.
Yeah, that's ugly. Man, that's crazy. That everywhere in the top 10 there's no fresh fight for him. That's, I mean, besides the two that you mentioned. So eight out of the 10 guys. That's that just thank you for just proving my point even further. That's ridiculous, dude. That's completely ridiculous.
So you're at the bookmakers, you put your money where your mouth is. Who's winning this one, and how do you see it happening?
I'm a notorious and still picker, and still picking Merab because he just seems like a man in his time right now. Until I see some kind of degradation in his game or athletically, I I'm not gonna go against him. But Corey is a legit challenger, and I expect a good fight.
I'm going to pick Merab to win this one, and I'm going to go by decision. I think if you do want some value for money, go for Sandhagen early on. Go for Sandhagen in the first two rounds. Um, I do have some concerns with Merab in terms of mileage, in terms of age, because he is 34 right now. So we're starting to reach maybe that tipping point where he starts to decline a little bit. But also as well, and it's something we'll bring up when we talk about Pereira during the Ankalaev fight. I think when you get to that third fight in a year, and especially title fights, that's a lot of hard work. That's a lot of mileage in terms of the training camps, in terms of the fights itself. So there is the possibility that we might not see the best version of Merab in this fight. That being said, I think you play it safe and you go with Merab being Merab.
I'm going with Marab being Marab. And for some people who like to take his personality and his quirkiness and his funness and go, he's not a smart guy. Well, I don't know what he can do with pen and paper on some math, but his fight IQ is way up there. And I think he's also a pretty honest dude. And if he wasn't primed, if he wasn't good to go, I don't think he would be accelerating himself to be defending his belt again. He already has twice this year. So he's already well and good by UFC championship standards by not just sitting on the bench. So I'm just going to believe in him. I'm going to believe in the athlete. And while he's still got it, run it up, get them checks.
And I have faith in Longo as well. I think Longo's the type of coach that'll keep it on the straight and narrow.
We do know that he's a man who speaks the truth, or at least his heart's truth. And yeah, I agree.
And it is time for us to talk about our main event of the evening, and the light heavyweight title is going to be on the line. And once again, it is two of the most passionate fan bases in the sport who are coming at loggerheads once again. Magomed Ankalaev is going to be making the first defense of his title, but he's going to be taking on the guy who he took the belt from earlier on in the year in the form of Alex Pereira. So the bookmakers odds for this one, you can get Ankalaev as a minus 225 favorite. Pereira comes in at plus 175. So let's go back to that night over in March 2025, UFC 313, I believe it was. And obviously, I think most of us have watched that fight to try and prep ourselves for what we can expect next week. What were your big takeaways from watching that fight again? Because for all of the tension that I had watching the fight when it happened first time around, obviously I know the result, but I've got to be honest, it wasn't the most exciting fight, I don't feel.
Well, I think that's where the criticism and the question mark comes in because you're used to Alex, asserting himself in most ways through the front door. He was playing back foot dandy, and that's not really what we see him have the most success with. So there was, and it was the first time I agree with you where during the fight live, the very first time I was watching it, I was like, this is possibly the most tentative I've ever seen Pereira in the octagon. I mean, I can almost confidently say that. And on the other side, for Ankalaev, I mean, the guy is like he moves like lava. He's dangerous to get too close to against, but he's not fast. He's not heavily rushing towards you. It's a progressive thing, and he also was respecting the other side of Pereira, so it created this, you know, like a World War One type matchup where it's just like, well, you got two strong forces. They're both digging into their trenches, and no one's really sticking their head up above ground to make a highlight headshot, if you will. No disrespect to anybody affected from World War One.
I think many of them, unfortunately, have moved on to pastures new.
Right on. I just, always got to say that anytime real lives were lost. But yeah,
Certainly so.
it was All I can say is, man, I didn't even want this rematch. Can I just throw that up in the air? I didn't even want this rematch. As I said earlier, the immediate rematch stuff is like whatever's. I would like to see both of them get their gears going somewhere else and then clash again. I have no idea what to expect. I'm honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if we get the best of Slow Jams R&B Volume 2 with these guys, to be honest.
Like, this is a hot take, and it may be a very dated one, bearing in mind what happens in Perth. But truth be told, I would rather give an Ulberg this title shot over Pereira.
Mm, I love
Maybe
you,
not,
bro, but
maybe not so much in terms of excitement, but I think Ulberg has put together the winning streak to warrant the opportunity. But I'm somebody who always values meritocracy over entertainment, over big personalities. So that might be my biases playing into it here.
on the merit side, I don't think you're wrong. I I will throw my personal grievances against Olberg. So I'm like, I don't really. To me, it's like if he wins this one, then okay, then I got nothing to say. Then yeah, giddy up, let's go. That's fine.
I saw a stat which did the rounds after that first fight between Pereira and Ankalaev, and it said that Alex Pereira landed 11 head strikes over 25 minutes. To put that into perspective, Karl landed 15 in a match against Rose, which is widely considered one of the worst title fights of all time, and Pereira landed less than that.
You know why? Because people have some kind of ridiculous bias to stand up because everybody can stand up and punch in the mirror. Most people are hopeless like baby turtles on their back, so they don't understand wrestling or the grappling element. And it, that regardless, that's a terrible stat. That's a horrible, horrendous stat. You should never have honestly in a round fight, you should never have double digit strikes total, period. In my opinion, I'm not fighting the world's best. So yeah, it was a complete stinker. And this is where I go back again. Why are we doing this? Like, why? Why are we doing this? It's not like I just can't find a unless you got one, Carl. Have you heard one? Have you heard a good argument on why this is a good rematch?
I think there's a financial side of things. I think that if you were to look at the other viable contenders, I think Pereira moves the needle a lot more than, say, Yuri does or Ulberg does, Dominic Reyes, etc. I think between the sort of realistic contenders, he's by a long way the biggest star. I also kind of think as well that the UFC, let's be honest, the UFC have never liked Ankalaev. They've never liked his style. I think they're spooked at the idea of a Dagestani fighter being champion, just constantly turning back contenders. So I think they tried to artificially extend his road to the top. And now he's got the belt. They want it off him as quickly as they can. And I think they see Pereira, obviously big knockout artist, being the guy with the best chance to do that.
I agree. I think you have very valid points there. I also think he did it to himself. I mean, you get a stigma when you fought for the title and you ended up in like the only draw in a championship that anybody can remember. Like,
Grosselchev too.
okay, that one people remember, and it was,
Edgar Maynard.
but it was like, ugh. All this, did I know a lot of people didn't that were completely fatigued of the Shevchenko Grasso story. So drawing in a title fight, I know it's not the same matchup, but that causes a little bit of stain on your entertainment level. And let's just face it, the UFC is focused on entertainment now. TKO has changed the UFC
Hmm.
completely. It's not anything like any of the versions that we loved before. This is an entertainment driven entity, and he ain't it. Maybe. But once again, I don't blame a guy who goes slow rolling fighting against Alex Pereira, because if you are, you get in there and fight him and see how tenacious you want to be about it.
I think one of the things that the first fight between the two did do was I think it kind of it stains maybe too strong of a word, but Pereira always had this kind of aura, this kind of mystique surrounding him. He was just this stoic, silent killer who just went in there. Who's the next opponent? I'm going to stand and trade with them, and I'm going to knock them out. That was kind of like the cycle for like a good 2 or 3 years. I think what happened with the Ankalaev fight not only the performance, but I think the fallout from it, it kind of broke that in a lot of people's minds. Because, like, we run polls on the INC main channel. We always say, like, here's the upcoming pay-per-view. Who do you think's going to win? And you had, I think, about like 75 to 80% of people picked Pereira to win. They did not give Ankalaev any chance whatsoever. So I think in the eyes of a lot of those people, it kind of dented him because it was kind of like, really? You lost to him? And that's no disrespect to Ank. I think Ank is a fantastic fighter. But there was a lot of everyday casual fans that kind of dismissed him as just another Dagestani.
My man, I've been dismissing casual fans since the 90s. They value one statistic, that's the knockout. It's the only thing they can understand. It's not surprising to me. So it's also not surprising to me that those same bandwagoners and uneducated fans like pick that way. That actually makes complete sense to me. And I'm gonna be wondering how many people come back to the AP train for this fight. You know, like how's his fan support for this time around? Because you're right, Ankalaev is a world class fighter. I have this argument all the time in so many fights, all the time about people who might have the hype versus like going against somebody who's a world class fighter, and people are just like, oh, he's gonna get killed, and it's just a silly thing, you know. The KO magic is just that. It's an illusion to all who see and do.
Yes. So would you say that the first fight in March, would you call that? Because I always say when it comes to assessing rematches and when it comes to assessing fights in general, I always say there's two results. It's either a fight the fighter A won or a fight fighter B lost. What would you say the fight in March was? Do you think that was a fight that Ankalaev won? That he kind of spooked Pereira into not throwing and then he was able to land his exchanges, wobbled him near the end of the third round? Or was that a fight where Pereira maybe he was thinking about the takedown a bit too much, so fixated on not being taken down, that he just kind of did it to himself?
A part of me wants to believe that it was more on AP side ability to adjust, because let's face it, in the MMA realm, he's pretty much had the size advantage, and the only other person he was equal height wise was with Izzy, but he had the psychological advantage from beating him multiple times over previously. So this, I think, was the first time where he's fought someone bigger than him, or at least his size longer, and also his usual recipe wasn't cooking. And I don't know if AP was able to keep the defensive mindset of worrying about the grappling, like you mentioned, but also to be able to switch gears and bring another formula of attack when his usual blend of herbs
Mm-hmm.
and spices wasn't cooking. You know, that's what I think.
Because he doesn't have a wrestling game to fall back on in the way that someone like Ankalaev might do.
No, you're right. He doesn't. I mean, he doesn't. There's a few parts of it like his clinch, like he can elbow and stuff, but is he like is he a damaging grinder from the clinch? You know, can he wall star and beat you up with? I haven't really seen that. You know, there's no. It's either meet you in the battlefield and like old battle days where the two sides line up and you just meet in the open field. Like it's either that or nothing. It seems like with him right now, and that's going to be the big puzzle he's going to have to prove and shut us all up who question it.
There were some things he did in that first fight, though, which I do think he can maybe lean on. Because Ankalaev has always had an issue with low kicks. We saw that when he fought Jan Blachowicz. I think Rakic had a lot of success doing so. And I would say Pereira at times did in the first fight. I think the first round you can definitely give to Pereira just based off the low kicks alone. So I think that's maybe something that Ankalaev's going to have to try and look into. I also think there was a late rally in the fifth round. Because I personally thought going into the first fight that Ankalaev threw sort of. I expected Ankalaev to go a lot more grappling heavy than what he did. And all kudos to Pereira. His takedown defense was on point during that fight. But it was Pereira who, in my opinion, was the one who won the fifth round. So he was the one who was rallying late on. One concern I do have, though, actually, I have two concerns from the Pereira perspective. is part of the reason I think he was so spooked was because that takedown threat was always there. He always had it in his mind, and he was maybe more focused on not being taken down than he was actually throwing. Obviously, it benefited him because he stuffed all the takedowns. But if he does try and open up, and if he does try and go, especially body kick heavy, Ankalaev's going to grab that leg and he's going to chuck him to the mat. But also as well, and this is something I kind of touched on earlier on in the show when we talked about Khalil. I just kind of get this feeling that we are seeing a 38-year-old fighter starting to show his age. This is not the same Alex Pereira of 2 years ago.
And you know, with honesty, nobody's the same person they were from 2 years ago, for better or worse. So I don't think that's a wrong thing to say. The other thing to say is let's be honest. Like, great fighters learn how to be the hammer and the nail. Alex is a hammer, a purebred hammer. And when adversity came to him through Ankalaev by getting bullied around a little bit and knocked around a little bit, getting manned in different scenarios, literally getting shown to be the weaker of the two, chest to chest. I think that's a lot. That's a lot to process. All in a cage with a man standing in front of you that wants to whoop your ass. So, you know, we'll see if Alex has hit his limiter, right? Like, everybody has a limit, everybody has a skill set limit. Maybe with the age thing, like you're mentioning, kicking in, maybe with an opponent that is the right size, right length, with the right skill set, and all this in the mix, we might have seen the limit of what, you know, calf kick, left hook can do.
Let's focus our attention on our champion, though, which is Magomed Ankalaev. So we have a guy here with a 21-1-1 record. So since he had that loss in his UFC debut against my boy Paul Craig, happy retirement, Paul, you've got wins over Marcin Prachnio, Ion Cutelaba twice, Krylov, Uzdemir, Thiago Santos, Anthony Smith, Johnny Walker, Rakic, and of course Pereira. So almost in a similar case to Merab, where you've got a guy who had a huge winning streak before he actually got the belt. And it's kind of, in my opinion, shielded a lot of people from realizing how good he actually is.
A lot of people want to diminish your wins, you know, until you're the man, and then they want to overvalue the wins.
Hmm.
Um, I think that's just the way the fan base works. I'm not sure why. And let's can we just go with this, like, the social commentary that Russian based fighters or Russian heritage fighters, whatever law, there's undertone of leftover Cold War shit that we were all programmed with. Just like, nah, rubbish, like, don't care, and you don't pay attention to them until you're forced to. And
I think
that's my
as
take.
well, what he's hurt by as well, Ankalaev, and it's no fault of his own, is when you think of fighters from his region, you think Khabib, you think Makhachev, you're thinking very wrestling heavy fighters who maybe can make a fight dull. And I think Ankalaev kind of falls into that trap, I think, because like Ankalaev is a stand-up fighter. He does his best work striking. But anytime you hear somebody speak about Ankalaev, they talk about, oh God, another boring Dagestani wrestler.
This once again leans back to people living okay, majority of the fan base nowadays are young people who read little and often just live off of highlight reels and clips. They get their information off of TikTok. How many highlight reels does Ankalaev have available for the ADHD based brains of today's society that can only grasp onto something for 5 to 7 seconds? All proven facts. Argue with a wall. Um, so, like, he doesn't generate those. Alex does. Alex generates the small brain dopamine clips. He doesn't. So they're gonna. I don't know. He must be boring because they don't take the time to know. And lots of times these guys don't even. I mean, I know so many people who watch fights even on a regular basis and forget some of the fights that they watched. Sometimes it happens to me. I'm a human. So for them to have all these other built-in blockades for their attention to lock onto, I'm not surprised that he doesn't have the same support as the Mahashevs or Khabib or anybody else that you want to pick.
What do you think Ankalaev should do differently going into this fight? Because I always think when it comes to a rematch, especially in an immediate rematch, there's more onus on the guy who lost to make improvements in their game. They know what caused them to suffer at the end. Whereas with the winner, sometimes some people fall into the trap of, oh, well, this worked for me first time around. I'm going to do the same thing again. What's Ankalaev, in my opinion, gonna have to do to make sure that he gets another win this time? Does he go more grappling heavy? Because it was always in the back pocket. It was always something to try and keep Pereira on his toes. Does he make that the focus this time?
I think it's very likely that he has a great plan B formula, but I'm gonna rock with the if it's not broke, don't fix it. Make the other guy, just like you said, make the other guy prove it. This formula won me the match. You have to overcome that. That's real. And let's go just historical stats. I believe the line is 68% in favor of the person who won the first match wins the rematch. I think it's even higher in title fights. That's just like all fights. So I think it's slightly above like low 70% in championship fights. So with all that being said, like I'm gonna lean onto math, which is a bad thing to do in fighting, but that's it. Like, yeah, he's in the driver's seat. He's the and still. Like, he's the one that I'm gonna borrow some of your words or diminished the aura of AP. Like AP didn't bring a threat to him. Like he's defending the castle. He's not attacking the castle. I think it's a much easier game this time around for Ankalaev in the mental and or game planning aspect.
I love you referring to Pereira as AP because I always think of AP McCoy, the jockey.
Ha, dude, I had to erase my former AP running back from the NFL, Adrian Peterson. When people were saying that, I would get that crossed up. What crosses me up to this day is when people saying JDM. I think of Japanese domestic market and cool cars, not Jack Della Maddalena, but that's a whole other thing.
It was like DDP for Dricus Duplessis. I'm just thinking of Diamond Dallas Page.
Bam! Yeah, 100%.
We've kind of broken down the first fight. We've kind of hinted at what we could see during the rematch. If you gun to your head, put your money where your mouth is, which way do you think this is going to go? Because my head leans towards Ankalaev because I kind of feel he's got Pereira's number, and I think the UFC. I've always been of the belief, and again, I'm not really the biggest Pereira fan, so it might just be my bias showing here. I kind of feel like the UFC knew that Ankalaev was the toughest match stylistically for Pereira, and that was one of the reasons why they put off doing this fight for so long. And I kind of feel like the situation is the same. Ankalaev's going to find something to get the W again. But this is Pereira. And as we know, for all of the doubts regarding his age, for all the doubts regarding his mileage, power is the last thing to go. So I think it's very risky to put money on this one. What about yourself?
Dude, you stole literally everything I wanted to say. I will be honest. You nailed that one very well. I if I had to, I would angle towards and still it's kind of a bias of mine since we're confessing biases. Said it earlier, said it again. I'm a little bit biased to that. But in my heart, I want AP to win, and I want him to win. I know this sounds crazy, but it doesn't have to be by knockout. It could be by a discussable margin, a slight he just accumulated rounds, nothing crazy like Unk did to him. Because since we're playing the whole keep Alex Pereira alive for ticket sales, I'm a big fan of trilogies, and I think that's the ultimate thing in combat sports is the trilogy. And if we could get one, just as a fan, I hope this fight's not boring. That's where my heart is. But realistically, if you're talking about putting dollars on the table, go with N still. He's once again he's defending the castle. He's already has a winning formula.
I'm about 99% sure if Pereira wins this fight, there is no way Ankalaev's getting that trilogy.
You're probably right, but I'm a hopeful idiot.
And on that cheery note, I think it's time for us to start wrapping things up here. So, once again, Rob, thank you very much for joining us here on what is comparatively short notice. If there is anybody who wants to check out some of your other work, where's the best place to find you?
Well, I appreciate that very much. And Hawaiians, we're down for the short notice. We get down. But
Danige.
hey, all day. So at JSpec the host, JSPEC the host on Instagram or X. I'm far more active on X. I also have a podcast, a fairly new one. It's a pet project, hobby project. We try to drop stuff weekly with myself, former UFC and tough standout Zach Palga and myself. We just talk about real stuff in the fight game, give real information, none of the rumor stuff. Sometimes a lot of good inside information. That is Fully Hydrated podcast available on YouTube or at Fully Hydrated on Twitter and Instagram. Once again, I'm Little Weak Sauce on Instagram, but follow us anywhere, message us anywhere, share us. Let us know if there's a content or information you want to know from inside the game, whether it's some business stuff, fighter stuff that I can share, or true blue fight game stuff that Zach could share with you. And thank you once again for your time and always thinking about me when it's time for a short notice. I actually appreciate it, bro. And dude, I just want to say shout out again to you and your channel for giving love to the fight game. And I said this off camera, but I want to say it on camera, giving respect and love to the warriors of yesterday. We wouldn't have this sport today without them. So I think it's great what you guys do.
It's a good thing you did bring up the Warriors of yesterday because over on our Patreon page, we have our latest retro review. And since the UFC heavyweight title is going to have its first legitimate title defense for about 5,000 years, we ran a poll looking at classic heavyweight title fights over the years. We had a short list of four, and our public vote winner, the one which is available online right now, we are going back to 2010 for the biggest fight in UFC heavyweight history in more than one sense. So Mitchell has had a look at UFC 116.
Oh, nice. And I just want to throw this out there. You guys probably already know it. The people who grumbling about the UFC heavyweight lineage and boop de doo. The UFC heavyweight division is the most shattered, broken lineage with the least amount of title defenses and most vacated titles out of any division. Its history is broken history. So we are living in the same pattern of its own history, folks.
Any memories of 116, Lesnar versus Carwin?
Dude, yeah, and I wish I had a 6 foot tall display that they had here in Vegas. I was able to get one for the promo. I had one in my house for years. I God only knows where it went or what happened to it when I moved, but it is no longer a thing. I wish I had that right now to show you. But yeah, dude, I remember the time the talking point from the casual fan basis. Since remember this, the casual talking point was just gloves. Everybody and their mama was obsessed with these two men's hands, giant mittens that they both had, and it wasn't about fight technique or whatever. It was just size of hands. If you were living in that era, you know what I'm talking about. And yeah, that was a great time. Biggest fight, literally, physically, and all of that.
So that is available on our Patreon page, and the poll is up for our next retro review. And of course, with Islam Makhachev looking to try and potentially make UFC history in his match over Jack Della Maddalena, I should say, we decided that it's an appropriate time to talk about his mentor. So our classic retro review will be centered around Khabib Nurmagomedov. So the poll is online right now on our main channel page. You have three events to choose from. UFC 223, where he wins the belt for the first time against Ally Akinta, and all of the scandal and controversy surrounding that card. UFC 242, he defends the belt in Abu Dhabi up against Dustin Poirier. And the Eagles' last fight at UFC 254, he takes on Justin Gaethje in what is ultimately his retirement fight. Any preference over which of those cards you'd like us to go cover, Joe? No, Joe, I should say, Rob.
Uh because I would like to call him a friend, my boy Ally Quinta. Let's go with that one. I'll go with that one.
I lean 223 as well because you've got Zabit and Bokniak, which is a wild brawl. Joanna versus Rose 2, which a lot of people forget what a belter that was.
Dude, nailed it. Great call.
But the vote is up to you. We will be revealing that in due course, the winner of that one, but the poll is still online. So with all of the spring cleaning out of the way, I think it is the appropriate time for us to start wrapping things up. My name has been Karl Bainbridge. That has been Rob Nakamura. We want to say a big thank you to everyone who has joined us for the past hour and a bit. And we will see you again over on INC Live in a few weeks' time. As mentioned before, the heavyweight title is finally going to be defended over in Abu Dhabi. It's England versus France, Tom Aspinall versus Stilgan. We hope to see you there. This is the INC. Thank you so much for watching.